I'd actually like to throw a question to Deb. So you're a ProHance client at Cognizant, and I'd love to hear directly from you. What are the sort of benefits you've seen since adopting this workforce analytics platform?
So, Sharon, I would say anywhere between 10 to 12% over a period of 3 to 4 years if you drive it aggressively. But I think more than the numbers, the biggest benefit is to get the visibility and transparency, right? To understand what employees do and how they are spending their time today as we speak, given that they're working from home or they're in a remote environment.
You actually touched on a topic I wanted to ask Deb about, which is sort of the elephant in the room, and it's this fear that perhaps some companies have that they're going to give off Big Brother vibes to their employees if they're going to monitor their desktop activities all the time. And Deb, you already mentioned how that's not the way you position it at all, and that you see it as a positive for the employees. Do you have any specific examples of how you've seen it help employees in their day-to-day?
Yeah, I think the way I was mentioning earlier, Sharon, right? We have used this data very constructively, right? And I saw a question that was there in the chat that did you inform the employees before implementing it? And the answer is absolutely yes, right? So we went ahead, we told employees that this is something that we are putting in place. The intent was how do we do effective load balancing? The intent was how do we use this to coach people, right? Let's say today, if someone is spending significant amount of time in terms of knowledge tools, right? That essentially means that he or she needs more coaching on the work processes, right? So we kind of send them for trainings. So I think the entire data was pretty much leveraged in terms of building the employees, right? And taking them to the next level. It wasn't really used, and like I was mentioning, it was never used to kind of take action against the employee, right? And like I was saying, employees are smart. They see through it, right? What we are saying, is it something that we are practicing? And we did that. We never, like I was mentioning, we never kind of included that in the scorecard. We never included it as part of the conversation when we did appraisal conversations, right? And that kind of helped us engage with the managers. The managers started believing in what we are saying. And that obviously helped us drive it much faster, right? So we could accelerate the deployment of ProHance within the businesses.
I know a lot of software in these big operational environments starts out as a real nice to have premium, and then over the years it becomes just the standard. And we've seen that with things like workforce management software and knowledge management software. Do you think this type of workforce productivity software is just going to become the standard in a very high volume operation?
I would say yes. And the reason why I would say yes is because most organizations, so I can obviously comment on Cognizant, but I'm pretty sure other organizations are also focusing on implementing Gen AI, right? And with the advent of Gen AI, the entire skill set and the kind of competency that we are looking for today is going to shift completely. So there was a report that was published by Boston Consulting Group, and they talked about that 85% of the effort today in the back office or the BPO space is typically spent in terms of knowledge management and content development. And that will shift with Gen AI, right? So you would see there is a significant focus in terms of your prompt engineering. And you would see that there is a reduced effort and time that is spent in terms of content development and knowledge management, which essentially means that we are going to hire more freshers and college graduates. And as and when we start doing that, we need tools like ProHance, which is going to help us monitor, coach, and evaluate these guys and see how we can improve their performances. So I would say tools like ProHance would continue to be required in the future as well.
I think you already answered the question about were employees informed before installation? Yes. Was the approach different by country? I don't know if there are any cultural nuances in the change management that you've observed, Deb, or is it purely in India at this stage?
No, so I think it is different. So the process that we would follow for our employees based out of US is going to be very different compared to the process that we would follow for Philippines and India, right? So it differs by region and by city as well, right? there could be state-specific laws that are there, and we need to abide by that.
Employee enablement and empowerment are two of the biggest drivers of disengagement and turnover. Sadly, too many organizations have no or limited visibility to how restrictive their systems and processes are. I'd expect ProHance could help provide the insights needed. Is that correct?
Yes, I suppose what I'm getting at, Sharon, is that we will always blame productivity on the people, and our experience with most organizations, a great deal of it's got nothing to do with the people. It's the silly systems they've got to use and the processes. And I would expect from what we're listening to here, Enhance gives us visibility to why was Steve stuck on that process or in that system for so long. Was it because he was having a bludge, or was it because the system was so clunky and unsupportive? Or, why was Steve in a particular application when others aren't in it? So to me, it would just give me so many insights into the way the business actually operates as opposed to the people. And we've just got to stop blaming the people and fix it.
Yep. Excellent point. Deb, I can see you nodding away. Do you have a real life story there?
Yeah, and I think it's an absolutely valid question, Steve, right? And I can recollect in one of our accounts where we deployed ProHance, it kind of gave us that visibility. So there was a change in the client application and the productivity significantly dropped, right? And we thought that it was because we had an attrition, we have new employees coming in. The productivity of the employees was actually low, right? Only to understand that there was significant latency with the new applications that we had, and the downtime was very, very high. So yes, I think tools like this definitely gives us the visibility and allows managers to take the right decision and action on the ground.
So a question from Alan, what are the key barriers to adoption? How does the organization's management culture impact success? How do you help old school executives using it as a stick?
Sorry, that's supposed to say, how do you stop old school managers from using it as a stick?
Yeah,
From using it as a stick.
Yeah, sorry, I screwed that up.
Yeah,
all good.
That's a good question, right? Because that comes up a lot, and Deb talked about the change management, right? And that's where we spend a lot of time, because different functions in the operation looks at things differently, right? Your CEO, your COO, your CFO, down to your team leaders, and it's actually implementing that change management from the top down. And in some cases, there's a strong mandate from HR that you'll be in breach if you're actually micromanaging people or using this as a performance management tool. And we're not interested in you bringing those type of metrics up. It's actually, what are you doing to help this person? And let's face it, right? Some people are not performing, right? There's no way around that. They're not logging on, they're not performing. It is what it is. But when you look at the heat charts that Anshul brought up there, where you look at your top performers, and are they in the magic little quadrant here on the right-hand side? And why is it that they're closing more tickets per day than some of the other support engineers, but the support engineers actually spending 3 hours a day more working? That's because he doesn't understand how to actually resolve those tickets, because guess what? His manager didn't provide him the necessary training. So there's a whole myriad of things that brings out. But I think, in short, it's really the culture driven from the top down, right? And management making that clear to anyone that that's not what the tool is used for. And if I just rewind a bit, and we all talked about the old days and interactive intelligence. Remember when screen recording came out and call recording, the uproar in the contact centers? And today, those very tools are used to actually help people and actually train them better, and actually improving the processes in the contact center, and actually realizing, as Deb said, why are people taking so long? Because it's our process. It's our solution that had 2 hours downtime again yesterday. So, and as Deb said, if you bring the employees in and you actually explain to them what we're trying to achieve with this, then I think that goes away. But certainly that is probably going to be one of the first or second questions that come up when you talk to anyone. It's this whole big brother. But if you look at, I talked earlier about the employee demands, right? They want to work flexible. They want to work the hours they want to work. Well, surely the business needs to be able to plan for that, right?
Can I add a point on the previous discussion? I saw a similar tool, not as sophisticated as this, implemented by a client who had a finance support function at a BPO. And it was quite interesting what happened on the culture piece, because it found, as the data was shown before, there were people who were just not performing. They were logging in at the start of the day and logging out. And what happened over time was, you know what adults are like. If you know that where the goalposts are and the boundary line is, you tend to align. And what actually happened was, just as being described, is the management started focusing on what was inhibiting good work. And it was actually at the employee level where they were putting their hand up and going, we don't think this person's doing their job. We don't think they're logging. It was a work from home team that was managed through a BPO. It was quite interesting. It was actually the frontline employees who were calling out their colleagues because, you know, they were unhappy with the lack of productivity or contribution from their teammates.
Also meant that they obviously may have worked longer hours too, right?
Yeah, well, there was that as well, because there were some employees who were putting in these huge overtime claims.
Yep.
And what it showed was that they were rorting the system. And that took about 3 months to clean up, because, you know, as adults, once everyone understands that these behaviours can be detected, it shifted the whole conversation towards how do we be more successful.
And the aid that helps as well is the client you have yourself, right? It promotes a little bit of self-monitoring as well. How am I performing against the team? And I don't think, unless you're blatantly lazy and you don't want to log in, then I'm sorry, but I can't find an excuse for that. Then I don't know anyone that doesn't want to be more productive, right? If you're looking at your metrics versus your team, you'll identify yourself that, geez, I'm struggling, and talk to your manager, right? Why is it that I'm working and I'm working as hard as I can, but I'm not putting out the same percentages?